Hello and welcome to the FACS Medical Tab training. My name is Benita Gonzalez. I'm the Director of Student Support Services for the Archdiocese of Galveston-Houston Catholic Schools Office. I'm also the Director of Support for nurses and counselors within our Catholic schools. We're first going to start with immunizations. A reminder that immunizations, there is an immunization policy from our TCCBED, which is our Texas Catholic Conference of Bishops Education Department. This is reviewed annually by our bishops in Austin and then are released to our superintendents as late as April of each school year. This year, our bishops have sent out not only a policy, but also a letter stating that their current immunization policy stands, and they've also added the Pontifical Academy for Life statement within their policy as well. Their policy does state that conscientious exemptions are not going to be accepted for Catholic schools in the state of Texas. However, that medical exemptions will be accepted, again, from a licensed physician who is an MD or a DA authorized to practice in the state of Texas. Another piece on immunizations, making sure that all immunization vaccine records are verified and reviewed before the first day of school, making sure you have put together a good practice for re-enrollment and re-registration, and also registration for your current and new families. If you need more support on how to do that in FACS before any paperwork moves over, that way there is no confusion or you're not trying to find documents after the first day of school, please contact your Catholic Schools Office liaison so they can support you in this area. Immunization requirements, those are the minimum requirements for the state vaccine requirements for K through 12 and for pre-K facilities. If you have a pre-K facility, in other words, pre-K 3 or pre-K 4 in your schools, you would follow the vaccine record that you see on your right. And for K through 12, it would be for the one on the left. If a parent is seeking an immunization medical exemption, a reminder that as of January 1st, 2025, we will be accepting the immunization medical exemption form only. So if a parent presents you with a letter from the physician or any other documents, those currently right now is not what we're utilizing. Please hand them the immunization medical exemption form, and it needs to be completed in its entirety by the physician. Please making sure that they are not using nicknames for the student name, that if the child's name is Stephen and not Steve, making sure they write the correct birth certificate name on the actual immunization medical exemption form, along with making sure that the physician checks off the right immunizations that are needing to be exempted, and if it is a temporary exemption or a lifelong exemption. Temporary exemptions are only good for 1-year renewals. Lifelong exemptions, of course, if it is from a practicing physician here in the state of Texas, and if the physician is still practicing in the state of Texas, will it be valid for that lifelong exemption. The school personnel at the end, once they receive this form, will contact the physician's office and verify to make sure that this immunization letter was filled out to its entirety. If there are some vaccines that are checked off, make sure you verify with the physician office if all of the vaccines that were checked off were the correct ones. Some physicians will stamp it as well. That is why that box is at the bottom right-hand corner, so please be sure to seek that also if that is something, a good practice, that is something that the physician is doing along with the signatures from the physician. A reminder to make sure as the nurse or health coordinator from the Catholic school that you write your name and who you spoke to at what time on what date. This provides the verification for the physician stating his or her medical exemption for this student. Once you are finished with that, this form goes to the Catholic Schools Office for filing and review as well. A reminder that if a child is going to be accepted to be on provisional enrollment, that has to be coming through the Catholic Schools office, making sure that we provide you the right provisional enrollment dosing schedule through the Texas Department. Parents cannot choose their own. It must be by the Texas Department's provisional vaccine schedule in order to make sure it is documented appropriately. So as we go into the medical tab, just a reminder that this is what a medical tab looks like. So here I have Jane Smith, and when I clicked on medical off of her dashboard, it brings me to her medical tab. On here you have general, allergies, prescription meds, contacts, over-the-counter medications, medical events, immunizations, medical notes, screenings, and so forth. Today we're going to be talking about medical events and immunizations and some screenings as well. So as we look into our immunizations, you would click on immunizations as you see on the bottom left-hand corner, and then the screen that's on your right will pop up. These are the immunizations for this child, Jane Smith. Everything in blue means that Jane is in compliance. So if you're needing to add a new immunization, here's what you do. You would first click on the column where you're wanting to add the immunization. Once you double click, it'll bring you to this next area. It'll ask you to add a shot record. You would click on Add Shot Record. Once you click on Add Shot Record, you will have to type in the date. The date will come up. Right now it is blank, as you can see right underneath 6/14/2021 is where you would add the date. Then you would click Save. Once you save, it will add it into the student's immunization record. As you can see here, 6/14/2021 was added. So once it is added, again, you will see that it will either turn blue or pink, or red. It looks pink on my screen sometimes, but or red. Blue means you're in compliance, red means you're non-compliant. Just to make sure that once you start adding immunizations, you'll see this check compliance tab. Sometimes you'll see it right beside the immunization cleanup, which is right underneath the word immunizations. Sometimes you'll see it on the top left-hand corner. Depending on your system and how, if you're using Windows or if you're using Chrome or using Mac, it depends on the system that you're using. Sometimes it'll see it in different areas of your computer. Mine is on my top left-hand corner. It says check compliance. So anytime you add immunizations, making sure that you run a check compliance. You don't do it after each one. I'm just saying after you've added a sufficient amount throughout the day and you know that you're inputting immunizations, go ahead before you close out for the day, hit check compliance just to make sure everyone is moved over to compliances. To check compliance, what you'll do is you'll check compliance, you'll move everybody over, and then you'll click on Check Immunization Compliance. Once you do that, it will tell you who's in blue, who's in white. All blue means all in compliance. White means not required at this time or aged out. For example, for Jane Smith, Hib, meningococcal, COVID. COVID is not required. For some reason, this was added in here, not required at all. This was just something that the nurse added just for their information. Hib is a pre-K vaccine. So since this child is in 2nd grade, it's showing in white because she is aged out of it. Meningococcal is for your 7th graders. Since this child is still in 2nd grade, she will not require meningococcal just yet. That is why it's in white. The blue means compliance. If you see anything in red, for example, Jane Doe Smith here only has one Hep A. That is why it's showing red, which means not in compliance. It will show up in a non-compliance report, which means that check back just to make sure, one, that you've typed in the correct date, checks to make sure on the vaccine record that you didn't miss one, or if you need any support, just give us a call here in the Catholic Schools office and we'll be happy to walk you through it. To run an immunization report, here's what you do. You go to Report Manager, and then you click on Medical under the category, and then under Reports, Immunization Non-Compliance List. What you want to do is towards the middle is you move the students all the way over from the left-hand side selection list to selected list, and it is going to move everyone over to the right-hand side. You click on View Report. Once you clicked on View Report, it'll assemble the report in itself on who is missing. So if you have students listed on here, that means that those students you have not inputted immunizations or that they're missing specific immunizations. It'll even tell you which vaccine they're missing. If for some reason you believe that something is not correct or the system is reading something incorrectly, contact me, Benita Gonzalez, here at the Catholic Schools office, and we'll review it together to see what seems to be going on. Now, screenings. We'll be going over the medical tab and reviewing the screenings. In screenings, here we have Jane Smith again, and we're in the medical tab. Once you're in the medical tab, if you click on screenings, you'll see the different populated screenings that are there. You have AN screening, hearing screening, physical screening, spinal screening, sports physical, TB screening, and vision screening. So we clicked on hearing screening, and here's what you have to add into your screening record. So you would, it'll populate already the date. So the date that I opened this was on 7/19/2024. However, right underneath that, you will type in the screen date. The screen date is when the child was screened. So let's say the child was screened on, I don't know, June 5th, 2024. You would type in June 5th, 2024, and their screener name was Dr. Smith. So you're going to type in Dr. Smith. On the right ear, you put pass or fail. Left ear, pass or fail. You're welcome to put in the hertz. You can put in 1,000 hertz if a negative or a positive. 2,000 hertz, negative or positive, passed or failed. 4,000, negative or a positive. Same with the right ear. You're welcome to do that as well. If you needed to recheck it for whatever reason, you can put the recheck date on there. On the referral date, if you needed to refer them because they didn't pass their screening, this would be the referral date that you sent out a letter home so the parents are aware that they did not pass their screening. And then you hit save. Next, we have a vision data. So you would go back to the screening tab, and then you would choose vision screening. This is the vision screening data that will come up. Again, same as the hearing. You type in the screen date, the screener name, and then the fair acuity of the right eye could be 20/20, 20/30, 20/50, whatever the acuity was. Same with fair acuity in the left eye. Was it 20/20, 20/30, 20/50? Did they pass or did they fail? You can simply put a P for pass and F for fail. Did they wear corrective lenses? Did they have on contacts? Did they have on glasses? You're welcome to put the Hirschberg corneal light reflex test if that's something you utilized, but you are not required to do that. You're welcome to do the extended recheck date and notes. If you needed to rescreen them because you just don't think they had a pretty good screen that day, you're welcome to rescreen them. You don't need to put the equipment, the tumbling A or the Texas loan. That's only up to you if that's something you want to add. But if you did refer them, this is important. If you did refer them to type in the date that you referred and put the sent the letter out to the families, then you would hit save. Same would be for the spinal data. Again, we'd go back to the screening tab, click on spinal screening, and then here on the screening tab, you would put in the screen date and the screener name. If they passed or they failed, did you need to rescreen them or were there any referrals? If you go back to the screening tab and you see a TB screening report, here's where you can document if there's a questionnaire, a TB questionnaire on file or not. If there is, you would put yes. If there isn't, of course, you would put no, but you definitely want to make sure there is a TB questionnaire on file that's required annually, a new one for each student annually as they are on your campus. Then you would hit save. Now let's talk a little bit about medical events. That's our next tab. In medical events, you can utilize this as your clinic log. This is all and every medical event that happens on your campus. So instead of doing a paper pencil clinic log, you can do a medical events tab, so you can make sure you document anytime somebody came in for a band-aid, a scratchy throat, or anytime you administered medication. So this is where it would keep all the events of what's happened. So in this case, as you can see, Jane Smith, we clicked on her medical events. She has something since 2021, so it just lets you review what has been going on with Jane Smith throughout the years. When you click on medical events, the top right hand corner, it has a little addition to it. When you add a medical event, making sure the date of the medical event is super important. So making sure that if you're typing something in that day, that it corresponds with the day of the event. So if you're doing this the next day, you want to make sure you type in the day before. Okay, so always make sure that the date of the medical event is the correct one. The time is super important because we want to make sure that this happened at 9:30 a.m., 9:50 a.m., 9:54 a.m. We want to make sure that the time is correct, because if you're typing in an accident or if you're typing in medication that's being administered, it is crucial that we know when that was being administered or when first aid was being administered to a child. Reported by is you would click on that drop-down menu and find your name as a health coordinator or as the nurse. If your name is not on there, you need to speak to your IT or your administrator to make sure they give you access to be able to add these to these medical events. The event type is either going to be a medication administration or an accident or a medical event. So if this is a medical event, this is where you would type in into the description what happened and the treatment, what type of treatment did you provide, and any outcomes that you might have. And then the person, if there was anybody who was contacted, mom, dad, and even then, this is the wonderful thing about fax, you can email the parents right away. So if for some reason you've tried to contact them, you can also send this by email so they can receive this, so they can know that you've been trying to contact them. If it is going to be a medication administration, you can select which prescription you are administering, whether it's something that's prescribed or over the counter. You would add these prescriptions in the medical tab as well under prescriptions, or over the counter medications under over the counter. And remember, you must have a medication permission form on file signed by the parent and the physician before you administer these medications. That is a requirement not only by the School Board of Nursing, but also a requirement through the Texas Medical Board that you have that medical permission form, and also through TCC/BED requirements. So making sure that you save this and definitely email the parents so they can receive that email at home, understanding on what happened and transpired throughout the day. So if you wanted to use the medical events as an accident report, you can do that. So if there was a medical event and one of their students was hurt, remember, accident reports are set up for students, so you can use the medical events as an accident. So you go to Report Manager, you would go to custom, because we customized a report just for this piece and purpose. So you would click on custom and then click on medical events. It will be DIOC for diocese, GM Houston medical events. And then you click on the year and then the dates from and to. So if you knew if it's going to be for 7/19, that's what you would click for. And then you would choose the students that you had an accident report wanting to. So you would move that student over to the select list and then click on view report. When you click on view report, this is what will come up. It'll come up with the student's name, grade, date of birth, the school name. So it has all the pertinent information that an accident report will require. It shows the medical event that you typed in, the time, the date, who the person was, which would be you or the health coordinator, who was contacted at what time, and it was a clinic visit. So clinic visit would be the event type. It was an accident. The description of what happened, what treatment was provided, and what was the outcome. Were the parents contacted, yes or no? And then who was it that was contacted? So just FYI, this can be used as an accident report. That way you don't have to fill out the accident report fillable file. It's already done here for you. You don't have to do double the work. But if you don't want to use the medical events and you don't use that and you do a paper pencil tab, then of course you'll have to use the the accident report in order to move forward. All right, for a student medical report, so if you're wanting to run a transcript of a student, like a complete student medical report transcript for those students who are applying for 9th grade for high school, or they're transferring and they need this information, what you'll do is you'll go under medical, go to student medical report, and move over any and all students that you want to move over so we can have all their information in place. You click on View Report, and then it'll ask you, what do you want to include in your information report? If it is an 8th grade student going to 9th grade, you remove those medical screenings. So you would unclick the medical screenings. If it is a student who is transferring mid-grade, like from 6th grade to another 6th grade school, you would leave the medical screenings on there. The reason we remove them in 8th grade is because 9th grade, when they get into 9th grade, they're required to be screened by their high school in 9th grade. And we do not want those high schools utilizing those screenings as their own. So they know that they have to rescreen anyway, so they should not be asking for your medical screens anyways. This is what a student medical report would look like. As you can see, there's a little picture of Jane Doe up to the right-hand corner. You don't have to include your picture at all. Has all her pertinent information, all her allergies, her medications, her screenings. If she had immunizations, those would be on here as well. A reminder that our nurse webpage is our one-stop shop. So this is the area where you receive all the information you're needing, any forms. The password is ARCHGH Nurses, again, ArchGH Nurses. And here's where you would find all the information you need regarding for your role. Please contact me if you have any questions. Again, Benita Gonzalez. You contact me via email at bgonzalez@archgh.org or 713-391-2630. Thank you. Have a blessed day.